and welcome back to the Power Lounge from Emerge and the Meteor. So happy that you're here. Hope I'm projecting to the far ends of the convention hall, and hello to everybody on the live stream. Very excited about this next conversation, partly because of the topic. The topic is care and caregiving, which is one of the true few universal human experiences, something that we're all going to do and hopefully have done for us as well. I'm also excited about this because it's not just a conversation, it's a live podcast taping. The podcast is the brilliantly titled America, Who Hurt You? A new podcast from Like the Big Laugh, a new podcast from Sarah Jones, the Tony Award-winning performer and creator of shows like Sell by Date and Bridge and Tunnel. She is brilliant. The podcast is wonderful. Please check it out. She's joined by two forces in this conversation to discuss this issue. The first is Ai-Jen Poo. If you know the phrase the care economy, who here knows the phrase the care economy? Okay. Part of that is due to Ai-Jen and the work that she has done as the Executive Director of Caring Across Generations and the President of the National Domestic Workers Alliance. She is joined in this conversation by Tarana Burker, the community organizer and activist who is the founder of the Me Too movement, which she started in 2006 and which went viral 11 years later. She continues to make history. Please welcome for this live podcast taping of America Who Hurt You, Sarah Jones, Ai-Jen Poo, and Tarana Burker.
Hello. This is so exciting, power loungers. It's kind of a contradiction, right? There's a lot of power, but we're lounging. We're doing both. We can do both and. I'm Sarah Jones. I'm so excited to be doing this first live podcast recording of America Who Hurt You. And my guests today, I want to first give you a little context for America Who Hurt You. We all know the girl who hurt you, right? America, girl! Until a few weeks ago, a lot of us were kind of like, ooh, it's looking bleak. And what I wanted to talk about with America Who Hurt You is the idea that our politics are driving our trauma is driving our politics. We all know there are some folks who are so traumatized, they're ready to drive this whole country off a cliff into authoritarianism. So we're trying to interrupt those cycles and talk about how not just healing, but care. And, those go together, right? If you don't have the care that Cindy was just mentioning, your trauma, needs an interruption, and care is the solution. So I am so honored. First of all, we get a double dose of Ai-Jen Poo, who is one of my heroes. And not only did she, really co-found not just the organizations, but this whole movement. Care touches everyone, right? You can't talk about abortion without talking about care. You can't talk about the right to our, paid family leave that we deserve, and our medical care that we deserve, and the care for our older relatives, care for ourselves, our children. You can't talk about any of that without really covering our entire democracy. So basically, Ai-Jen is, there's a line that has come to me recently. You can't spell the word democracy without the word care. It's in there. You can look it up. C-A-R-E. If you want to spell democracy, you got to have care in there. So we're going to get to talk to Ai-Jen. She's also on an episode of America Who Hurt You next week, talking all about the care economy. So if you need a 101, please tune in for that. And Tarana Burker, my other guest today, I'm dreaming. I'm going to pinch myself. It was a little DNC pinch. Tarana has also been one of my heroes, just as an activist and visionary who literally has changed this world with the Me Too movement and all of her other activism, understanding the intersections of, in particular, racism and sexism in Black women and girls' lives, and how that ripples out to so much of the other oppression and marginalization that we see. So I want to talk to both of you about how it's all connected. And one more twist. During this podcast, you may meet people. I know there's just one chair, but there's a few co-hosts on the stage. I play characters from lots of different backgrounds, so I may ask questions of Ai-Jen and Tarana from some people who may sound or be from different backgrounds than mine, but we're going to have a whole pluralist conversation. So I want to start with, am I screaming to the back? You know what? Democracy needs to be loud. I'm going to be as loud as we need to be. I actually want to ask you both, what does care mean to you? What is your care story if you had to give it to this audience?
You first.
The framing of care as a thing, as an entity, I really got that from Ai-Jen, right? From being around Ai-Jen and working closely with her, I is when it sort of clicked for me, the understanding of it. I have a long history with it, but never had a framing around it to make me think about, all of these things exist under the title or heading of care. And we need to wrap around all of it. There needs to be policies wrapped around all of these things, right? There's all these cracks in there. For me, I'm Gen X, right? Yeah,
yes.
Gen X. I get the Z's and the X mixed up. And so I'm in that what they call sandwich
generation.
I have a mother who is 70, in her 70s. She probably wouldn't like me being out here just naming things.
Sorry, Mom.
But yeah, my mother's in her 70s and has, health-related issues, and I have a child who's 26 and doesn't have issues, but
you have a child who's 26.
I have a child that's 26.
That's all you need to say.
Period. And so, and I turned 50 last year, right?
Yay.
And so that comes with its own set of things that I
Need
have
for
to
care.
self-care, and I think the reality of that has been much sharper for me in the last several years. What is the plan that I have for my mother? What's the plan for me? What if, God forbid, my child had to take care of me? I also have, my husband's older than I am, right? So there are all these different things I think about. I also watch the women in my family take care of people all over the time. My mother took care of, I had a great aunt who was kind of like a cousin or something, but anyway, we called her aunt, who my mother took care of,
right.
and I mean took to all her doctor's appointments, all
right.
of those kind of things. And I watched my mother struggle to try to get all her benefits lined up, to try to find her nursing home and all of these
Yes.
kind of things. And
Yes.
there was so many cracks in the system.
Like obstacles.
So many obstacles, so many ways. And my mother herself was wearing her body down,
Right.
trying to take care of this elder. And so when I saw the reality of like, wait, and I'm an organizer, right?
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know why this didn't come to me. And it was like, this makes perfect sense. Everything that affects our mind, body, spirit in this country, as in the place that we live, there should be some policy, a culture and a policy that's wrapped around it that's about making sure that it's done well.
Yes.
Right? There's everything. It should be done well. And I think we've lived for so long with this idea that certain people are not responsible.
Right.
We're responsible. We're just responsible for ourselves.
We have to
And
go
that's-
it alone.
Yeah, that's just not true.
Right.
And so we see it in a community sense where we rally to take care of each other. But there's a responsibility that our government also has.
Yes.
And we need to, I use this when I talk about survivors all the time, but we have to put that burden at the feet of where it belongs.
Yes.
And what that looks like to stand up to that burden is you have to create policies for people who are holding these burdens.
Yes.
Right? It's not our burden to bear alone.
That's
so
right.
I'm always excited to be talking about care and thinking about it. And the last thing I'll add is the connections. That's my personal journey, but the connections in the work
Yes.
around trying to end sexual violence and how it's been framed, again, in America, very much so. When we talk about it, we don't talk about survivors.
Right.
Even after Me Too went viral, there was a lot of conversation about who did what,
Right.
to who, and what the status of that person was. But there was very little conversation about the millions of people who said, my life has been affected by this.
That's right.
Right? What do we owe the people whose lives have been affected by this?
That's right.
So as somebody who stands in a position of leadership, when I hear that there's a policy that says, if this has affected your life, you can get 12 weeks paid leave.
That's right. That's right.
I absolutely want to rally other survivors behind that and say, listen, there's something that there's a place you can channel that pain into.
That's
right?
it.
We don't have to just be survivors, we can be thrivers. And so part of being in this care movement and care work with Ai-Jen is finding ways to flank other movements. That's really important. Survivor justice and the care work are flanking
totally
each other.
connected.
And they're
Yes.
totally interconnected.
Yes.
And it's really important that people see us together, see us talking about that, so that they understand that all of this work is about making our lives better.
Yes.
Because that's really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do.
I love that. And can I, before Ai-Jen, I just want to say, because something you said, Tarana, you're reminding me, Ai-Jen is the first, I did not have a concept of care or a care economy.
Yeah.
It was like, a care economy, what is that, right? If you
say.
say that to the average person, they've never heard of what that is, and yet they are a part of it.
Yes.
Every single person is a part of the care economy, whether you need care or you're giving care. I want to ask you, actually, because Tarana did say something that Ai-Jen and I are working on a project together. Caring Across Generations is helping me develop a new piece called The Cost of Not Caring. So I'm going to bring you a character who's going to ask Ai-Jen a question.
Okay. Hi there, everybody. I hope you can hear me and see me okay. I'm not used to talking over, all of democracy at the same time. But Ai-Jen Poo, my name is Lorraine. Sarah has me in her shows, what she calls her one-woman shows. And as an older American, usually people ignore me. But what Ai-Jen teaches us is that this is across all generations. It brings our power to the table also as older people. Oh, and if you're looking at me funny, yes, Sarah's family is black and white and all the different backgrounds, so that's why she has a white great aunt. Don't worry about it. Anyway, Ai-Jen, honey, this is what I want to ask you. How did the vision, well, I wanted to ask you about your care story, but this vision for, we've been going it alone. We're treated as though, you talk about it as infrastructure, which is ingenious. Infrastructure. We build roads, we build bridges. Ai-Jen and the coalition that she, is part of and helped create, they understand that we need care infrastructure. So your care story, but also that bigger story, if you please, sweetheart. I know you're not supposed to say sweetheart. Bear with me.
Lorraine.
Hi, Ai-Jen.
Hi, Ai-Jen.
I love Lorraine. Lorraine is my favorite older person because Lorraine reminds me every day something that people often forget, which is that aging is actually living, right?
Can you say that again, please? Say it again. Aging.
Aging is living, right? We're all aging. We're sitting here aging right now, me especially. I'm so tired. No, aging is living, and it's so important we remember that because it helps us to actually lean towards how do we design a future to support us to live well as we age? Because that's the thing we haven't done. Aging means longer to love, to learn, to connect, to contribute. But we're going to need different kinds of supports and systems in place to be able to do all those things as we age. And that's what Caring Across Generations is all about. It's about looking at the reality of who we are across generations and designing our culture and our policies into the future so that each and every one of us can live well, regardless of ability or age, where we live. And the thing about infrastructure is, it's like in this country, if we can bring electricity and running water to every home in America,
Right?
we should be able to bring care to every home in America.
That's
Yes.
big snaps from me.
Yes.
And it's very similar because care is it's an enabling force in our lives and in our economy. And that's why we call it the work that makes all other work possible. Without care, we aren't able to go to work. Senator Casey actually said it best. He said, some people need a bridge or a tunnel to get to work, and others of us need childcare,
Right.
and others of us need home care. And yeah, it's like that simple in a way.
I love that.
Right? And it goes to my care story, which is that my mom was an immigrant. She came here when she was 25, and she had me within a year of immigrating here. And she was living on her own because my father was living in Baltimore. She was in Pittsburgh. And she was on her own in a new country, learning the language, the culture, going to school and working. And she had no support network for care.
Right.
And so at 6 months, she sent me to live with my grandparents, but then really wanted to bring me back. My grandparents who live in Taiwan. So I actually had the gift of having my grandparents be part of my caregiving story from the time I was 6 months old, which I'm so grateful for.
Yes.
But then bringing me back, when I was old enough for preschool, she actually had to go into debt to be able to afford the childcare that I needed. And then when my sister came when I was 4, but then, you know, my grandparents, as soon as they could, retired and immigrated to help care for us.
Right.
And then as they aged, they needed care, and my whole family was trying to figure that out. And my grandfather, we couldn't find the right care for him as his mobility declined and he lost his vision.
Right.
So we had to place him in a nursing home against his wishes.
Whew.
And not every nursing home is this way, but many are institutions where you're sharing a room with a lot of strangers, where you have no control over your schedule, your time, where the workers who are there to support you are completely underpaid and overstretched.
Right.
Some of them have 25, 30 people in their care. How do you care for 30 human lives per day?
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Those of you who are caregivers know it is so much, it requires so much capacity, life force,
That's right.
skill.
That's
Miss
right.
Harriet, who's here as a care worker, she knows. Give it up for Miss Harriet.
Miss
Every
Harriet.
day who shows up and helps to make sure that other people can live dignified lives with
Yes.
quality of life.
Yes.
And that's really how I came to be in this seat of trying to figure out how we build a movement of all of us who care about care so that we can actually care for each other.
That is so, yes, please. And I want to say the waking up to how much we've already been caregivers or already needed care in our lives, but once someone names it and gives you, you know, a community, and I think that's another big piece. Actually, I'll let somebody else speak up here. Here, we're going to bring Bella.
Hi everyone, my name is Bella. I don't want to take up a lot of space, especially as like a white woman. Like in this particular moment, I really want to like allow the voices of women of color to like, I want to listen and learn. But I just want to say that like in my family, there was a lot of like stigma about like the fact that we had like, you know, people who, you know, had like disability issues or whatever it was, and it was sort of like, we're just gonna like pretend, you know, that like it's okay to ignore what's going on or like not talk about these things. And that is so isolating, even if you have resources. I'm not gonna name what kinds of resources I have, but it's probably more than others. And what I wanna say is that I feel like as we're talking about democracy, like how do we get honest that you can't talk about the economy without talking about the care economy. Everyone deserves to have community and support, and the people who give that support have to be well paid. They have to be able to live their lives and not fall apart. Like, so just want to say that. Also, Tarana, I stan. Also, Ai-Jen, I stan. Okay, bye.
You know, well, I'm going to let Ai-Jen answer this question, but one of the things about this that I think is fascinating is that we never hear politicians, particularly now anymore, say the word poor.
Interesting, right?
Like, I 100% support the fact that we have to support the middle class, obviously.
Right.
But this is also a country full of poor
We're
people.
pretending there's no poverty.
We're
It's like
pretending
70%.
there's no
right.
poverty. We're pretending that people are not poor, and that's not something that we have to deal with, the working poor.
Thank you.
And a lot of
The
people,
working poor, 'cause
the working
yes.
poor, and very particular, right? Like
Yes.
there are a lot of people who are in this care economy who are working poor,
Yes.
who don't have a living wage,
That's right.
who don't have adequate health care,
That's
who
right.
don't have protections that a lot of us take for granted. And these, again, to repeat Ai-Jen, are the people who we lean on to take care of us.
That's it.
It is so, I'm being maybe hyperbolic, but not, but it's immoral.
It is immoral.
It feels
It's a
deeply
crime. It's a
immoral to look at a person and say, I want you to clean my house and wash this and do like deeply care for. And these people have to insert their lives into your life.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And then go back to a life that's not sustainable.
That's right.
It is unfathomable that we would treat people like that. And a lot of these people are poor.
Yes.
They're not middle class.
That's right.
And so I just, that question brought that up for me. It just always bothers me when we talk about what we're going to do. When politicians and lawmakers are talking about what they're going to do, there's a whole swath of America.
That's right.
I grew up poor.
Right. That's right.
It was working poor. My mother always worked. But very much, I was the kid who had to go to get the paperwork for the free lunch and I was that kid,
That's
right? Like that is something that we need to talk about. And then you have, my mother didn't do this, but I have friends whose parents had to do side jobs. Some of those side jobs are, a lot of hustles are cleaning hustles.
Yes.
Right, like that. So there is a way that we don't talk about a group of people that we want to sort of keep them in the shadows.
That's right.
But this country is propped up by them.
Correct.
Right? And so that just can't happen, which is another reason why the work around care is so important.
Absolutely.
Because if those people start not caring, then what you gonna do?
Then,
right? Then what we gonna do?
That's the cost of not caring.
If the people who are paid to care decide this is not worth it, I need to do something else, we are in a lot of trouble.
Correct. That's it. Thank you, Tarana.
No, the median income of a home care worker in our country is $23,000 per year.
Did you hear that? $23,000 per year.
I'm sorry.
So we have a situation where the people we're counting on to care for us can't care for themselves and their own families doing this work, which is why we have a 26% turnover rate of home care workers, which then affects the quality of services that we have, because we're actually interdependent.
That's right.
And that's actually a really beautiful thing about care and the care economy, is it's a place where you cannot avoid or deny the fact that we as human beings are interdependent.
That's right. That's right.
That we fundamentally need other people. That's actually a really unique thing about our species. Like, there are a lot of other animal species that the second they're born, they can actually walk. Bye. And
I'm good.
Right, they could do stuff.
They can do stuff.
We can't do anything.
Try holding
for
your
a
head
long
up.
time without the nurturing and care of others. And we need to be reminded of that, because what's happened is we have built our entire economy taking for granted that family caregivers, unpaid family caregivers, are just going to show up, and that professional care workers are just going to show up. And by the way, overwhelmingly women.
That's right, and overwhelmingly women
of color.
Right.
Who do this work. And actually, Jessica Calarco, who's a social scientist, she says, other countries have a safety net, and the U.S. has women.
Okay, how much do you love? Now, we have to wrap up, so I'm going to end on this, because we just heard Ai-Jen say, I love that. I want to find that and hashtag it. Other countries have a safety net, we have women. So I'm bringing out my one male character. Hi, what's good, everybody? My name is Rashid. I just want y'all to know I feel very honored. I know what women be doing. I know what y'all do. My mom's a caregiver, and I respect, you know what I'm saying, everything y'all doing with the care economy and whatnot. Look, I'm in hip hop, you know what I mean? I'm an old school hip hop head myself. I ain't never think I was gonna need care, you know what I mean? Now I'm in my 40s, got sciatica. I'm like, son, it's coming for everybody. So I just want to say to both of y'all, what you do for women, I know people be talking about it's women's issues or women's justice or whatever. Everything that's a women's issue, it's a people issue. Without y'all, it ain't gonna be good for me, you know what I mean? So I just wanna thank y'all, and look, I'm gonna put it to you like this. I'm trying to be respectful. As a dude, the only dude here,
I just want to ask the other dudes, please step up and learn about all of this, because you might think it's not for you or about you. It's 100% about you stepping up. It wouldn't be no women issues if dudes would just act right like they supposed to act. You know what I mean? It ain't no women's issues unless y'all keep fucking up. That's what I'm trying to say. So let's get it together. You know what I mean? Do better.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say as Rashid. Any parting words, gems from either of you about care, about what can these folks and our listeners, people listening to America Who Hurt You, people who care about democracy, who are voting in November, what do you want to send people away with as a message around care?
Well, a lot of people who need affordable quality childcare, paid family medical leave, home care, a lot of people who are touched by these issues do not know that these issues are on the ballot. There are actual solutions to address the cost of care, the access to care, and the low wages for home care workers and care workers, the isolation that family caregivers feel. There are solutions to these challenges, and we actually are in a moment in this country of policymaking where we're just right on the cusp of winning massive transformation in our systems to support us to care for our loved ones.
So, Ai-Jen, I'm sorry to interrupt. May I ask, can folks go to like Caring Across Generations and just literally sign up, get involved, right?
Yes, join the care movement. Let people know that care is on the ballot and that their engagement in the movement, in the organizing, and spreading the word, if each of you tells all of the caregivers in your circle that they need to get organized and activated this year and beyond, and that we have the potential to change everything for future generations when it comes to care, we will change everything.
Yes. Tarana?
Ai-Jen is the
care maven.
The care maven here. I will just add to underscore that when people think about care generally, we don't think about self-care. And self-care is also a part of the care movement. And a lot of the work that we're trying to do to make sure that survivors of sexual and gender-based violence have the resources they need to heal falls under the work of what care is trying to do, what the care movement is trying to do. There are statistics right now that say it costs somewhere between $110,000 and $133,000 a year per survivor. And every time I see that, I think for the ones who can afford it.
That's right.
Right? That's supposed to be the average cost of what it takes
to heal
post, surviving a sexual violence. That's if you can afford it.
Right.
And so for the people who can't afford the medical care and the therapy and the time off,
all of it,
we need policies and legislations to fill in the gaps.
That's it.
And so when you hear about this, it's not just about parents taking time off when they have a child. It's not just about taking care of elders. It's about the care that we need for ourselves, particularly those of us who've experienced sexual and gender-based violence. One of the things that really gets my goat is that people don't think about survivors past the moment of trauma.
That's it.
And we are a powerful group of people in this country.
That's right.
We've seen that already. We have a statistic on our website now that says there are 165 million women. I'm just going to talk to women for a second. Sorry, brother. I'm coming. But there are 165 million women in this country. And we know that 1 in every 5 women will experience sexual violence in their lifetime. That's 33 million women. But it's also 33 million voters.
That's right.
We are a force to be reckoned with. We are a power block. So we have started organizing survivors under Survivors Vote. So the other thing I want to ask you before I leave is for you all to go to survivorsvote.org and take the pledge. We're asking people to pledge to stand with survivors, stand with the care movement, because we are flanking each other. We're all doing work to make our lives better.
That's it. That's it. I don't think we need to hear more. Care can't wait. Thank you, Tarana Burker. Thank you, Ai-Jen Poo. Thank you all for having us. Thank you, the Meteor and this Power Lounge. Go forth and keep caring.
Keep caring.
We need it.
Uh-oh.